I bought a 2000 model year Honda VFR 800 for $350. This wasn't a wreck. This was a wrecked bike. There are some mouse-chewed wires. Majorly, it has a hole in the side case here and rocks, little pebbles inside the engine. V4, baby. The engine has no compression.
Oh crap.
Can it be saved? The good news is that the engine does turn over.
Yeah!
Why there's no compression? That's still a mystery. My theory at the moment is that it has something to do with the timing. Because if the timing's off, the valves will open at the wrong time and you won't be able to build compression. Now our VFR is special because in this generation, it had both fuel injection and gear-driven cams, which give it a very distinctive sound. So the first thing I want to do is figure out if we can get this engine to run. And our first step to do that is to take off all the stuff on it.
Oh my God, what is that?
What is that? Holy Jesus.
Oh, rats!
There are a lot of little hoses and sensors attached to that intake plenum. Yes. That's our oil pan. Full of rocks, dude. It's all rocks. Fuck. All right, now we're supposed to have some alignment marks on these camshaft gears up here. So like there's a little line right there, and that is our alignment mark. There should be marks on both of these as well as the head over here. So if our engine is timed correctly, those should line up, and then there's another mark down here on the actual crankshaft. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and rotate the crankshaft and see if we can get that to line up, see what it looks like. Then I need to reinstall the crankcase here as well. You can see ours has holes in it, which are bad, but there's an index mark on this section right here, and that is still there, and so we can still utilize this thing. We now want to check that piston number 1 is at top dead center. All right, so piston number 1 checks out, is correctly timed. All right, so piston number 3 and piston number 1, this rear head completely, all seems to be timed correctly. The one thing I have noticed is that the spark plugs are all loose. And maybe that is our compression issue, not building any compression into these things because the spark plugs were letting air by. The engine is correctly timed. It looks like we don't have to do anything extensive or crazy with this engine. We don't have to take anything else apart. I've also gone ahead and checked all my valve clearances on the engine as I've rotated it. And, all right, I'm also going to check the spark plug gap while we're here. All right, looking good. So I'm excited because at this point I have got the valve covers off. I've checked the valve clearances. I need to make some adjustments on the valves, but I've checked all the timing and everything, and everything checks out on this engine. It should run. So my next step is going to be to actually get in here and wash out the inside of that engine to get all the debris and everything off the inside of the engine. To do that, I've got this little tray here, and I've got this pump. This is from like a Harbor Freight parts cleaner kit, whatever, and it comes with this like separate little pump that I can just adapt to whatever tray I want. So this will fit underneath the motorcycle, and I can use this to get up in the engine and spray things back down into this tray. All right, we're done with the solvent stuff. I've cleaned this out really well. So I need to weld my case here. I've got an old battery hooked up in the bike right now. I don't have a key for the bike. I got the ignition out at the moment. But I did want to try and hotwire the bike basically and see if I can get some power to it. I'd like to see if I can at least figure out what the mileage is on this bike. Got a clock. Where are my miles at? All right, the horn doesn't work. I mean, nothing is working here. All right, so I've had to have a key made for this bike, which cost me $250, which is more than I thought it would be. So I've got the battery hooked up on here, and I'm gonna see if we can actually get this thing started. So let's stick our key in. All right, so not to turn the bike on, we're not ready for that, clearly, but let's see if we can figure out what the mileage is. Yes. Yes. So it has 75,000 miles. All right, so with the key on, I get this FI, or this fuel injection sort of warning light, turns on and stays on. So there's a couple things this can be when the light is just steady on. All right, so there's also this fuse here that is completely missing. I'm gonna throw another fuse in there. The light actually, now it blinks. All right, we may just jump the starter for the moment. So I'm trying to get to the point where I can test the compression. That's my main goal right now. All right, so the starter on this VFR is down here. All right, so I'm moving my battery down here. Got some jumper cables, and that one to the positive. This one to the positive. Aha! Let's see if we can get compression on cylinder 3 here. All right, so I've removed my spark plug out of this one cylinder. I'm going to put my compression gauge. All right, so when I did my valve clearances, when I checked those, cylinder number 4 was my best cylinder. So let's see if we get better compression out of there, because I assume at the moment that it's possible the valves are not seating all the way, and that's why we don't have compression. I can get to 90 on that one, but that one actually is pretty good. It got up to almost 120. So off camera, I did a leak down test. It went poorly. But I could tell that there was a lot of air coming out of the exhaust or the intake, giving me an indication that there was an issue with the valves. And this gave me an idea. That was a pain in the ass.
Oh, rats.
All right, so we're at the point now with this bike that I either have to take the engine out in order to take the heads off, which I need to take the heads off so I can clean the valves to see if doing so will improve our compression. Now, to take the head off the front, you can do it with the engine in the bike. To take the head off the rear, you have to take the engine out. I'm still not fully committed to this yet. So what I'm gonna do is take the front head off, clean the valves, put the front head back on, and test the compression just on the front head and see if my theory proves correct. With a little paint pen, get in here. Put little letters on here. We'll take this guy out. If we were adjusting the shims on the valves, we'd have to come this far no matter what. Let me go ahead and remove the bolts from the head here. Alright, now I'm gonna try and break this head loose. That was very easy. We've got a little spring compressor kit here. This guy here to compress our springs and so we can remove the valves. Alright, so this guy is key, a little adapter for the particular valve. At least for the exhaust, this kit works. And this is a 25mm adapter that we just used. Alright, so now I've got an intake valve here and it's the same guide here, the same adapter. It's a 25mm. So any kit you can find that has a 25mm compressor adapter will work. If it actually works. Oh yes, look at that. You got the little valve retainer. I'm trying to do one valve at a time. And these are fun because they have dual progressive springs in there. Alright, remove this valve out. There we go. Look at that guy. Now what I want to do is clean up the valve and the seats and whatnot. I'm going to do that with wire brush. I got brass wire brushes here. It's softer metal than the valves and it shouldn't hurt the valves themselves, and I should be able to clean this stuff up. And believe it or not, I've also got a reamer for the valve guide. I can ream that out as well. Alright, I've also got these little micrometer, little hole gauge guides, which you can tell. So you can go in here and measure our valve guide clearance. A micrometer, measure the width of this guy. Alright, there's one valve. Amazing. I amaze myself, although I'm aware that I'm probably not doing this exactly correctly. So here's a valve before I clean it. This is an intake valve. You can see all the carbon buildup on the back side of the valve. And here's our valve after cleaning. Looks a lot better. Alright, so here's my head all cleaned up with a brass wire brush. Valves have been lapped. I kind of stayed away from doing the reamer on the valve guides. It just didn't feel right. I'm not a professional. I'm just a guy at home that likes VFRs. All the stuff that I used in this video will be linked in the description. That's it. I'm gonna try to get this back on the bike and we'll test the compression again. All right, everything is reinstalled. Our little marks all line up the way they should. Let's test this compression. All right, so leak down test. I know I said compression, but leak down test is what I want to do. Guy in here, I know this one's at top dead center. Little tool. Alright, well it does seem to be leaking. And it says it's leaking about 25%, which is approximate, but it's not coming out the intake and it is not coming out the exhaust. It is definitely coming out the bottom through that cylinder. Fuck. Alright. I had high hopes for this bike, man. Yeah, I think we're done. Oh, that sucks. That sucks. I'm going to cry. Alright, recalibrating this thing. Recalibrating, keeping my hopes up, setting it to 0. Exactly. Yeah, no. Alright, so now, depending on where you have it calibrated, so now it's looking awesome. 7%. Fantastic. What happens this time? So now it's telling me like 8%. Going down. Alright, so I don't know, maybe this is permissible. It's at like 5% now. Alright, I think, alright, hope has won out. I think we're good. I'm going to rotate this thing around though, and we're going to test the other cylinder on the front and see what we get over there. I've got my little leak down tester hose in cylinder number 2. Let's test that one. Hopes are running high right now at the Hoopty Doodle shop. I can tell you that. Oh, that's not right. That's definitely not right. Oh boy. I got a bunch coming out the intake there. What did I do wrong? The valve is not... Let's try something here. Oh, it's seated now. There we are. There was just something on that valve apparently, because now we're perfect. It's like 5% leak and you can hear nothing. Like there's no air coming off of the intake or exhaust, like none. Like we've definitely made an improvement, taking the heads off, lapping the valves, just doing that, cleaning up the carbon and stuff. That made a huge difference. Sweet. All right, we're spending money now. We're proud members of the Stoke Nation right now. And it's because this engine is savable. It should be totally savable. It took me weeks to get here. My girlfriend was like, I'm amazed at how long it takes to determine if the engine's good. It takes me a while to do a lot of things. And so, because I'm not a professional, now that we've determined that the engine can be good and usable, we now have full authorization to go full steam ahead on this VFR. It's a bike that I hold in high esteem. I don't know why. It's more the engine than anything, but in terms of the bikes that I've owned, this is a high performance machine. Aluminum frame, aluminum swing arm, V4 engine. To me, the engine is the biggest deal, the coolest aspect of this bike. It's like owning a V8 in the 50s or something. It's a big deal, man. It's cool. Ultimately, it's not going to be a VFR form when I'm done. It's going to be a custom looking motorcycle, and I'm going to swap around the location of a lot of the wiring stuff on here anyways. The fact that a mouse got in there and chewed up the wires, not a huge deal. I mean, also the wires are like 20 plus years old at this point. Oh yeah, and buy some of these shirts or something. This is like, we got a little Grom action. We got some Grom Reaper action going on there. I've got like 3 other designs on there. There's like the winged turtle, which is super cool. Like if you don't like motorcycles, winged turtles are awesome. The bobber, the Gold Wing bobber, there's another t-shirt for that. Another cool little Hoopty Doodle whatever shirt with a TIG torch on there, which I just came up with the other day, which I really like. But yeah, so if you buy some shirts, it helps fund this channel and helps us build out this VFR. Thanks everybody. So in terms of videos, like I'm gonna try and put out videos as frequently as I can. I am welding full-time for somebody else, so I don't have a ton of time to put towards these builds, and so therefore I can't get videos out every week. But I will try and post them regularly, and I'll try and post them on Sundays. I am first thing in the morning on Sundays, but it might not be every Sunday. It might be one Sunday a month. If you're not subscribed, subscribe, put that little bell notification thing on there so that YouTube algorithm will hopefully like tell you, hey, Hoop-De-Doodle's got a new video coming out. Otherwise, I'm not really sure how you might fall behind in this VFR build, which would be really sad. We don't want that. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.